Hey there, let's take a look at the different causes of flooding. There are human and physical causes. Let's start with the human ones. The likelihood of flooding happening can be significantly increased by the actions of humans in the drainage basin. River management, especially that of hard engineering systems, is meant to provide protection from flooding, but poor river management can have the opposite effect. Channelization, for example, which is when the river is widened or deepened, and straightening the river by cutting off meanders, has actually increased flood risk on the river Mississippi. This is in America. The levees and man-made channels restrict the river, making it more likely to burst its banks. Agriculture. As demand for food increases, so does demand for agricultural land. Increasingly, farms are made on deforestation sites, for example in the Amazon. Agricultural practices increase surface runoff and the amount of soil exposed, leading to soil erosion. Sediment from the erosion is transported into the river. The river's water capacity is reduced by the sediment, increasing the likelihood that the river will burst its banks. Floodplain drainage. Floodplain land is flat and fertile, making it desirable agricultural land, but also a target for floods. In many countries, the land is just drained to provide this, but the process of drying out the wetlands destroys habitats. The process leads to the area shrinking and lowering, which can actually increase the likelihood of the area being subject to floods. Urbanization. This leads to the removal of vegetation, resulting in an increase in surface runoff. An increase in impermeable man-made surfaces like concrete, tarmac and tiles lead to no infiltration, and so all rainfall experiences runoff. Runoff enters the drainage system, which quickly takes the water to rivers and waterways. This significantly reduces the lag time and promotes reaching a higher peak discharge. Removal of vegetation. Deforestation and removal of vegetation increase the risk of flooding in several ways. The ground cover decreases, meaning that interception from the plants and the leaves is reduced. The water will now just reach the ground. The removal of plants reduces infiltration. With less infiltration and interception, there is an increase in surface runoff. Let's just quickly have a recap of that. Humans contribute to the risk of flooding through urbanization. The removal of vegetation and increase in impermeable man-made surfaces results in more surface runoff. The lack of infiltration makes water quickly reach the rivers. Now let's have a look at meteorological causes of flooding. Natural flooding is caused when a river's discharge increases until the river bursts its banks. Flooding can be caused by an increase in rainfall or an increase in surface runoff water. Flash floods happen quickly and frequently without warning. Low air pressure systems can create intense tropical storms and thunderstorms that produce heavy rainfall. Prolonged and heavy rainfall can be caused by mid-latitude depressions, low air pressure systems that can produce a lot of rain. A depression happens where two air masses meet, one hot and one cold. The cold air pushes the hot air up, leading to its cooling, condensing and forming rain. Heavy rains can lead to saturated soil, which stops infiltration and increases surface runoff. Water reaches the channel quicker and causes flooding. Extreme monsoon rainfall. A monsoon is a seasonal change in the direction of prevailing winds as the ITCZ, Intertropical Convergence Zone, moves northwards. The change results in wet and dry seasons in subtropical areas that are close to oceans. Because of this, India and Southeast Asia are at particular risk. The summer monsoon, April to September, leads to extreme rainfall in India and Southeast Asia. During July 2015, the heavy monsoon rain resulted in 103 deaths in Myanmar. When temperatures increase after winter, snow and ice in higher latitudes or altitudes will begin to melt. Snowmelt is particularly evident in mountain environments, and the increase in water results in increased surface runoff and consequential flash floods. ENSO, La Niña. La Niña is a change in weather pattern across the South Pacific Ocean as part of the El Niño Southern Oscillation cycles. La Niña events exaggerate the normal weather patterns. The La Niña years bring warm water and low air pressure to Australasia, so rainfall increases, as does the risk of flooding. What are the impacts of snowmelt? These are increased surface runoff and consequential flash floods. What are the characteristics of flash flooding? They have no warning and happen quickly. Channelization is when the river is widened and deepened, and straightening the river by cutting off meanders has actually increased flood risk on the river Mississippi. Flooding can be caused by physical factors like temperature increase. After winter, when snow and ice in higher latitudes or altitudes begin to melt, the increased water from snowmelt results in increased surface runoff and consequential flash floods.